I've had the same mug for like 5 shows.
We love these mugs.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like, they're gonna be like, dude, wash your mug.
I do.
Just saying. Had that mug for like 5 shows, right? Already.
I drink out of this every day.
I know. Still with that mug. Again with that mug. Next week I'm changing it up. I'm gonna get a new mug next week.
Fine. I'll get one.
I've decided. It's gonna happen.
I'm still gonna use this one.
You're listening to Articulate with your hosts, Kevin Kramer and Sean Gillespie, your go-to guys for art tips, techniques, and general artist ramblings. Presented by drawingandcoloring.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Articulate the Show, where we talk about everything art.
Everything.
Everything art.
Everything. What are we talking about today? Actually, let's first, you're Kevin Kramer.
I am Kevin Kramer.
I'm Sean Gillespie.
Intros.
In case you don't know us already.
In
case you haven't watched the other, 30 shows.
You should go back and watch
You should.
them now.
Some of them.
Get caught up.
Some of them you can skip.
Don't skip anything. Get caught up and come back to this one.
All right.
We'll wait.
Definitely watch this one, though.
We'll wait.
Because today, we're talking about low art versus high art, as a way of saying it.
Basically.
But this is kind of, ironically, difficult to articulate.
It is.
But
at what point does something
right, so
get ingrained so deep?
Right. Well, and let's take it for granted. You have books, and then you have literature. You have movies, and then you've got films. You've got illustrations, and then you've got art. You've got these different things. There's not one for music, which I found weird. There's I can't think of one for music. I mean, you've got different genres, but you don't have maybe you have a score, or you have a song versus a score, but a score kind of implies
I think a symphony.
that it goes with that. Yeah, but a symphony still is I mean, there's not one for that's more like you have an orchestra or a group. So there's not really one for music.
I'm sure there's a word for it.
There probably is. But anyway, the point is there's definitely especially with books versus literature and movies versus film and illustrators. Oh, he's an illustrator. He's not an artist. I've seen people say that before, and I'm kind of like, well, aren't illustrators also artists? And they're like, it's this kind of way of almost demeaning.
Right.
It is a little bit demeaning, but why do people do that, and what's the difference?
It's attitude of quality.
I mean, it seems like it would be personal preference.
It is.
To a bit. Because certainly. Now, I mean, there's some where it's inarguable, for example,
I think there's 2 points of, one is, he just draws. This one has meaning.
Right. And that's what it is, right? One has meaning and one is just for entertainment.
Right.
That's what it is. Because entertainment can't possibly have meaning, right?
It can't have underlying tones.
No.
Political and social
But
issues.
there's a lot of ones that cross that line. And you see this with movies especially, where they're like, pretty much anything about, at least in America, anything depressing.
Talking about Titanic?
Yeah, anything depressing where everybody dies is a great way of making a film. That's going to be a film.
It's artistic.
Right. But anything where your main character is blowing up everybody else, that's going to be a movie. That's Godfather being the exception. That's a combination of both. He kills everybody, and it's spoiler alert, by the way.
But it's so done. It's
so well done.
Thank you.
Right.
Those words were
and that's the thing too, is there's a quality aspect too.
Right.
So it's not just necessarily that one has meaning. It's one is such a high level of beauty.
It's not just
that it's art, and and because it's art, you have to put it in a different category because you don't want the Godfather hanging out with the Expendables too. Right. Those are two different things.
It transcends its own
It
category.
brings us to a higher level. It's a song I made, patented by the show.
Yeah, I think I heard that
copywritten. But yeah, so there is a difference.
Right.
And it's not necessarily bad. But then you get movies like Jaws. Jaws is an entertainment movie.
Right.
But at the same time, Spielberg is a great filmmaker.
True.
So, but at the same time, Jaws has also got such a following, and it's such an ingrained classic now that it may have started off as a movie and then became a film.
I think time.
And that happens too.
Time will do that.
Right. Time.
Because if you look at any of those movies, I particularly, whenever I see an old movie and I don't know any of the actors, like if I watch a horror movie, they're scarier.
Right.
So if you watch an older movie, all the technology back then was so less complicated.
Right.
And it still has that artistic following and flair, and it just builds over time, and it has its own look and feel, and it's like, wow, they did all of that.
And this is a good point too with in art, bringing it towards like regular two-dimensional art. You have artists like Stan Lee, or artists like Dr. Seuss is a good example, where back in his day he would have been considered an illustrator, and that would have been not necessarily lowbrow art, but it wouldn't have been in the same museum as a Monet,
or
But now over time he's gotten such a following and thing that you will see Dr. Seuss paintings and things like that in a museum, because they're such an ingrained part. They've
transcended the pop culture,
they've gained importance over time,
So
taking that into account, we can argue then that it's not necessarily an issue of meaning or art, it's an issue of importance. So
all those Dr. Seuss stories have a good what is it, moral?
Oh yeah. Well, but I'm just arguing like him being considered an artist as opposed to being just considered an illustrator, or those books being considered books versus being considered literature. You know what I mean?
Well, over time, his work of art, his work, breadth of work, has built that almost iconic. Bubble around him to where it's almost untouchable now. It's like you can't just recreate that. It's so
it's iconic. Right. So he's over time his importance has grown to where he's validated as an artist because of his influence.
It's
so
an icon.
He's proven himself through history, as opposed to the work proving itself as art right from the get-go.
And I think if you want to even go further, it's a point of who's the game changer? Who did it first? Or because there's no Jaws movies.
No, there weren't.
Before that,
but but also like Spielberg,
the point of view camera.
I mean, some of his
shark,
like Indiana Jones. I love Indiana Jones, but that's a movie.
That's
a movie.
That's
it's pure.
Flick.
It's an action flick. It's a movie. It's not a film. Now you might call it a film, maybe.
It's driven by story.
It's it's one of my favorite. I'm not knocking it, but are we going to really put Indiana Jones in the same level as Schindler's List?
No.
Same director, but one is empirically a film, and the other is a movie.
Well, it goes back to content.
Right.
How is that relate to the overall worldview?
Right. And the main reason I keep bringing up Spielberg is he's actually one of the people who first pointed out that there is a difference between movies and film. And, and ironically, he became like the biggest movie director of all time.
Biggest blockbuster.
Yeah, biggest blockbuster movie director. But he still makes amazing films, like Schindler's List, for example. But that's also a very depressing movie that deals with a very important time in history. So the importance of that film and the beautiful way it's beautifully shot, it's inarguable that it's a piece of film.
He made Lincoln, too. I never saw it, but I know it's beautifully shot. Mm-hmm. And is that a film, or is that just a movie too?
Yeah, that's the good question.
Subject matter.
It deals with very important subject
with the
matter.
other one, but
and you see this with books, for example, too. This crosses all boundaries. This concept.
I'd fairly say if a book, if it's taught in school, it's a classic. Literature.
Okay.
I don't know how that I don't know what point that does.
Yeah.
Maybe it just teaches a point that everyone goes, that's something we need to instill in everyone in life.
Yeah, but you definitely, though, you have books that are just books, and they're, romance novels or whatever. They're just meant for entertainment. They're just going to entertain you today.
Is Harry Potter a book or
that's a good
literature?
Question. Actually, I was thinking that as you thought, because I was just thinking that I bet you they're teaching Harry Potter in school now, probably, because it's such a good way to get kids interested in learning, and and also as you move up through the Harry Potter books, the vocabulary changes to a higher level vocabulary. So it's a great way of teaching higher vocabulary to people. So it would be
if anybody's watching that has any experience with that, I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know where they would fall. I would like to consider them literature just because I love them. But I don't know.
The Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby is definitely literature. you know?
But they just made a movie about it.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not literature.
Is that movie a film?
Oh, is that movie a film? Or now that's a good question. Can you have something that was a higher level and then make
Demean it?
Yeah, demean it. I mean, certainly, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
But that's interesting. So the content itself is not what makes the art.
Right.
That, you know, that's a cool concept. That's a thought.
It's the story.
This had not occurred to me, dude.
And the actual representation of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
The way it's represented. I haven't seen the Gatsby movie.
I
don't know. Oh, is it? I mean, would you?
It's like a party.
Is it a party?
Got,
well, the book is kind of like a party too, but it's like a 1920s zinger of a party. You know?
It's like
what's the hubbub, bub?
Have you? It's like the what is it? Romeo and Juliet with Leo DiCaprio.
Oh yeah, well it's the same director, Baz Luhrmann.
He did the same type of style.
Okay,
so it's updated.
Well, he's got a style
with music and all
Moulin
that,
Rouge
but it's still that old look.
I got you.
So it's.
I love Art Deco though, man.
It's Art Deco.
I want to check that out.
Like it's recent.
Yeah.
So there's fireworks, there's rap music, and there's other stuff in it, and it's more updated.
Yeah, man, his movies are like a phantasmagoria of awesome, but at the same time, it's like you're exhausted. By the time it's like, woo! But I think his work is beautiful. I don't know whether I would consider films or movies, but I think it's beautiful nonetheless. I think I love his color palette and everything that he uses.
Yeah, the movie is amazing.
So I want to see it. I definitely want to check it out.
It looks amazing.
But there is a difference. And so I guess the question then, too, for our viewers is whether or not you can foster that. Like whether you can set out to create literature or a film or high art versus low art, or whether you just do it, be yourself and do whatever you want to do and hope that it's accepted that way. Yeah. I mean,
it's a good question.
I don't know.
I think if you are going to try to force something, it's going to be contrived anyway.
Yeah.
So
I honestly would like to create high art. Like I've tried to do that, but it's not me. It's not me. I'm not as good at it. I'm way better at just illustrating and inking, and I've kind of been discovering that about myself more lately, and I'm kind of focusing on that more, and I'm happier for it, to be honest. It's a lot less pressure.
Right. I'm not an atelier artist where I'm sketching in things and sitting in a studio.
Oh, see, I still like doing that.
It has a romantic feel, but that's not me.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that, but when I find that when I do that, I still want to paint like an old rusted out car instead of, a beautiful woman, well, it's not true. I'd rather paint a beautiful woman, but I don't know any of those. So it's a lot easier to find a old rusted out car than it is to find a beautiful woman.
What a juxtaposition.
I know. God, my life is the worst. But the point is, though, if you try to set out and create high art, then it puts a lot of pressure on yourself, and you can find yourself stymied in creating anything, and you just get stuck.
Right.
So maybe you shouldn't think about it, or at least not strive to do that and just create what you want to create.
Right. The movie, the Jaws movie, they shot it specifically the way they did because of lack of technology. And they couldn't get the shark to work.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I think that point of view.
Yeah, they had to shoot around that, and that happens a lot, too, is having to shoot around things. Like, Hitchcock is a great example of this. Hitchcock he worked in the studio era, in the studio system. And back then, they had codes that you had to meet, and you couldn't show any violence on film. That old joke where the girls and the men kiss, and they all lift one leg, that's an old joke from that era, because they had to always have one foot on the ground, even if they were laying in bed and kissing, things like that. So he had to film around these things, and in Psycho particularly, he's shooting the shower scene, which is a horror flick, right?
Right.
But he shoots it in such a way that you don't ever actually see
anything
contact, because he had to do that around the studio.
It's scarier for
It's way more scary, and
he have to think about it.
Right, but he discovered that, and Quentin Tarantino revisited that in what's that one where all the
Pulp Fiction?
No, the one before that, like Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Reservoir Dogs, the guy's cutting off the ear.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen it,
if you haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, there's a 10-year statute of limitations on this.
We can't be responsible.
Yeah, go see some movies. But anyway, he's cutting off the dude's ear, and the camera is moving. and then it doesn't show it, and that makes it so much worse because your mind can imagine
fills it in
so many more horrors than you could ever see.
Exactly.
Right. Which is why they don't show you the monster until the very end of the movie, and why they don't do that. And that's a proven system.
Yeah.
But that all came about because of Alfred Hitchcock creating Psycho and having to work around these limitations of the studio system. So limitations can make higher art in a lot of cases. And that's what, he set out to make a movie that scared you, but he made a film.
Of other ways.
Yeah, had he been able to just show anything, that might have just been a movie.
Right.
But now it's a film. So that's interesting too, man.
Think we'll end on
That's crazy,
that
blowing my mind here.
I think we'll have to end on that one.
All right.
It was so profound.
Well, okay.
It was actually good.
I hate to end this one because I was just getting rolling. But there we go.
Send
us your thoughts. I know I can't rant all day about this stuff, guys. I wish I could. But send us your thoughts on art versus high art, or movies versus films, books versus literature. Where's that line?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is it subjective or is it objective? Are there things that are objectively art? I feel like there are certain categories that are.
Does it have to be about something serious?
Well, and then another good example, one more, then we'll end, okay, is the graphic novel Mouse. Right?
I don't know.
You never heard of it? Okay. So the graphic novel Mouse is it's a novel about it's about the Holocaust. But the mice are the Jews and the cats are the Nazis, and it's a graphic novel, but it's a beautiful piece of work, and it won the Pulitzer.
Oh.
Right? And it's like the only graphic novel in history to win a Pulitzer. And it's definitely a work of art versus other graphic novels, which are just illustration.
Right.
And those are not important. So anything about the Holocaust or anything about a tragedy, a human tragedy,
shoo-in.
That's almost an easy out, really, as far as becoming art. But so it's definitely subject matters.
It has to be controversial. I think
it has to be controversial. It has to be, it has to have meaning and importance. Right. It has to be important.
Right.
Is the main difference.
To mass or a small group that makes it bigger.
For sure. So send us your thoughts on some works that you think are important, or even works that I would really like to hear some examples of things that are considered books or considered movies or considered low art that you think should be high art and why you think that. And post about it on our Facebook page and send us emails about it.
Yeah, we'd definitely like to hear about that.
That'd be cool. I'd like to read about that.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll end that one for today.
I guess.
And we'll have to. And we'll see you next week. If in the meantime, hit that subscribe button. Go to the Facebook page. Leave us that comment below this video. And hit up that Articulate Podcast site.
And the Shano.com.
Keep up with us.
And send me a message, too, sometime. I never get any messages.
Yeah, shoot him a tweet.
Yeah, something to let me know that my...
guy.
Yeah, just tweet me or let me know that my page is working. Because I never hear anything from anybody.
He doesn't know.
I don't know. All right, see y'all later.
I'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Articulate with Kevin and Sean. Subscribe on iTunes or check them out on drawingandcoloring.com. Always reminding you to keep it simple.